Coming up on this Monday edition of Daybreak, North Korea test fires another short-range ballistic missile in a show of strength ahead of the 61st anniversary of the signing of the Korean armistice agreement, which ended the Korean War. South Korea's ambassador to Russia says the United States has not asked to deploy its THAAD missile defense system on South Korean soil and that Seoul will use its own. Plus, fighting has subsided in Gaza after Hamas said they backed a 24-hour humanitarian truce, but there's still no sign of any deal to end the conflict with Israel. Daybreak begins now.
Hello and thanks for joining us. To our viewers around the world, it's 6 a.m. on Monday, July 28th here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broom and you're tuned in to Daybreak. Our top story this morning: North Korea fired a short-range ballistic missile into the East Sea between Korea and Japan over the weekend, adding to its unusually high number of weapons tests this year. The North state media says it launched the missile as a show of force as Sunday marked the 61st anniversary of the signing of the armistice agreement, which ended the Korean War. Yoo Li-an starts us off.
Pyongyang fired another missile into waters off its east coast on Saturday, a little over a week after the UN Security Council officially condemned North Korea for its previous series of missile launches in recent weeks. North Korea state media said Sunday that its leader Kim Jong-un had guided a rocket-firing drill the day before to simulate a strike on military bases in South Korea, where over 28,000 U.S. troops are stationed. This confirmed reports from Seoul's Joint Chiefs of Staff Saturday night that said a short-range missile, presumably a Scud-type missile, was fired into the East Sea from North Korea's western coast, near the de facto sea border between the two Koreas. The North state-run Korean Central News Agency says the launch was timed to coincide with the July 27th anniversary of the ceasefire agreement signed at the end of the 1950 to 1953 Korean War. Although the armistice means that North and South Korea are still technically at war, North Korea hails the day as a major national holiday, praising late leader Kim Il-sung for his achievement in bringing the country a victory in the Korean War. The Nodeong-Shinmun, the newspaper of the ruling Workers' Party of Korea, said in a front-page editorial on Sunday that the country should commemorate the victory by carrying out its military-first policy and strengthening its self-defense capability. Yoo Li-an, Arirang News.
A ceremony to mark the 61st anniversary of the signing of the Korean Armistice Agreement was held on Sunday at the Joint Security Area in Panmunjom. Scores of veterans and senior officials from South Korea and the United States attended the ceremony to honor the sacrifices of those who gave their lives in the conflict. Our Kim Hyun-bin reports.
The Korean War started on June 25, 1950, when the communist government in the north launched a surprise invasion of South Korea. The war ended 3 years later on July 27, 1953, with a ceasefire and the signing of an armistice agreement that divided the country. Korea marked the day on Sunday with a ceremony honoring the sacrifices of the hundreds of thousands who died in the conflict. The event was held at the Joint Security Area in Panmunjom, the exact location where the armistice agreement was signed 61 years ago. General Curtis Scaparrotti, the commander of the United Nations Command, was in attendance, along with other senior officials and Korean War veterans.
By striving to maintain the armistice, we are honoring the sacrifice of the almost 180,000 men and women who died while fighting under the UN flag. And we acknowledge the estimated 2.5 million civilians who also died during the Korean War. When we take steps to maintain stability and security in the region, we display our desire to never again incur such a great cost.
In the wake of the recent provocative acts from North Korea, General Scaparrotti also had a strong message for Pyongyang.
Their continued opposition and defiance of the United Nations Security Council resolutions, as well as the international community norms, is unacceptable, and it further isolates them from the international community, further deprives their people of any hope of prosperity in the future.
This ceremony not only serves to mark the signing of the armistice agreement, but it's also a solemn reminder that the two Koreas are technically still at war. Kim Jong-un, Arirang News, Panmunjom.
Now, there's been a lot of speculation one way or the other, but a high-ranking South Korean official says the United States has not officially requested to deploy its missile defense system in Korea. In an interview with Moscow-based news agency Interfax, South Korea's ambassador to Russia, Wee Sung-nak, said that Korea will deploy its own missile defense system and that Washington has not asked to launch its own THAAD system on South Korean soil. Now, Russia voiced concerns last week about speculation the US planned to deploy THAAD in Korea. Russia's foreign ministry said such a step would inevitably have a negative impact on the strategic situation in the region and could provoke an arms race in Northeast Asia. Fighting has subsided in Gaza after Hamas backed a 24-hour truce with Israel, but there's still no sign of a comprehensive deal to end the near 3-week-long conflict. Hamas said it has endorsed a call by the UN for a pause in the fighting in light of an upcoming Muslim holiday, which starts on Monday. Some firing has been reported, however, on both sides, with Hamas since Hamas agreed to lay down its weapons. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he doubts the validity of the truce, adding that Israel would take whatever action is necessary to protect the Israeli people. Over 1,000 Palestinians, including a great many women and children, have been killed in the 20-day conflict thus far. 43 Israeli soldiers have died, along with 3 civilians killed by rocket and mortar fire out of Gaza. Now, a new report claims that Hamas has bought rockets from North Korea in a secret arms deal worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The Islamist group needs to replenish its depleted stockpiles after thousands of rockets were either fired at Israel or destroyed in Israeli strikes in recent weeks. Son Jung-in reports.
Thousands of rockets have been fired since the latest conflict between Israel and Hamas erupted on July 8th. And the Islamist group is reportedly keen to replenish its depleted stockpiles. According to the British daily The Telegraph, Hamas militants are attempting to negotiate a new arms deal with North Korea for missiles and communication equipment that will help them continue with their offensive against Israel. The Daily, quoting a senior security official, reported that the deal was worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. It added that Hamas is now waiting for delivery after it made an initial cash down payment via a Lebanon-based trading company. The arms deal wouldn't be the first of its kind between the two. In 2009, a freighter carrying 35 tons of North Korean arms was seized in Bangkok, which was, according to Western sources, heading to clients such as Hezbollah and Hamas. Meanwhile, Israeli military commanders also believe North Korean experts have given Hamas advice on building their extensive tunnel networks in Gaza. They believe North Korea, which is believed to have one of the world's most sophisticated network of tunnels running beneath the demilitarized zone with South Korea, has helped Hamas improve their own tunnel network. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
Now, the Korean government has announced plans to team up with China to launch joint surveillance against illegal fishing in waters shared by the two countries. Korea's Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries said Sunday that 2 to 3 joint inspection tours will be conducted during fishing seasons that attract a large number of illegal Chinese fishing boats. The agreement, reached at a meeting in Weihai, China, will be implemented in 2015, but Korea and China will start inspecting boats in the West Sea from October. Now, Korea has been working to stop illegal fishing in its waters for some time now. In the year of 2012 alone, more than 450 Chinese boats were seized in Korean waters for illegal fishing. The Chinese fishermen, confronted by Korean authorities, as you can see here, often respond violently, leading to casualties on both sides. Trial
We start before the sun rises to bring you the latest stories out of Korea. We also lead the way with important global coverage. Stay on the pulse of what is happening with Daybreak.
Now, we're at the height of the summer vacation season here in Korea, a time where millions of Koreans take a few days off to recharge their batteries. And President Park Geunhye is also going to take a week's vacation, although she'll be spending it at the presidential office of Cheongwadae. Officials say she'll have a very quiet vacation, considering the country is still in mourning over the victims of April's ferry disaster, and 10 of those passengers on board that ill-fated vessel to this day remain unaccounted for. The president is expected to continue working on ways to revitalize the economy and decide on who to nominate for the vacant culture minister post. Prosecutors are seeking arrest warrants for Yoo Li-an, the eldest son of the owner of the sunken Sewol-ho ferry, and also his female aide. Yoo was arrested Friday with 34-year-old Park Geunhye, who was helping him allegedly escape a massive manhunt. Both have been on the police's most wanted list since the deadly ferry sinking in April that left more than 300 dead or missing. The Incheon Prosecutor's Office filed these arrest warrants on Sunday afternoon to detain the younger Yoo for questioning on charges that he embezzled around $9.6 million from Chonghaejin Marine, the operator of the sunken ferry and its affiliates. Now, in economic news, a recently unveiled government stimulus package will not have an immediate effect on the Korean economy. That's according to local analysts who are saying that that's one of the big reasons why they've lowered their third quarter earnings outlooks for Korean companies. The combined outlook for operating profits for the country's 177 listed firms fell by over 5% in the past month. This according to market researcher FN Guide on Sunday. Analysts had slashed estimates for about 2/3 of the listed companies. Hyundai Heavy Industries saw the biggest fall in its operating profit outlook by a staggering 53%. The outlook for Korea's third largest refiner, S-Oil Corporation, dropped by over 27%. Now, Korea has topped another OECD ranking, this time in research and development funds. A report by the Korea Institute of Science and Technology, Evaluation and Planning says Korea's R&D budget made up the highest percentage of GDP in 2013 among advanced nations. The numbers indicate the country's R&D intensity or R&D expenditure as a percentage of GDP came to 1.14%, and that beats Iceland and Finland for the top spot. Korea spent $13.7 billion last year for governmental R&D projects, the sixth largest among the countries tallied. The United States spent the most, followed by Japan, Germany, France and Britain. Now, the practice of crowdsourcing is catching on in a big way here in Korea, and more enterprises, big, medium and small, are soliciting contributions from a large group of people, and they especially do that from an online community. And the best thing about this is that it's a win-win situation for both parties, as our Park Geunhye reports.
A lively debate is taking place over ways to better industrialize products. LG Electronics started operating a website 2 weeks ago where people can freely pitch their product ideas. If selected for production, the company has agreed to give the creator 4% of the total sales, while another 4% would be available to others who helped in the process of development. Over 8,000 submissions have already been made. Some include a helmet that runs on solar power and a refrigerator with transparent doors that lets people see what's inside.
These insightful ideas for home appliances come from the actual users of the products. We decide to turn these useful ideas into reality by providing ways to commercialize them.
This venture company gives 40% of a product's profits to the person who comes up with the idea. Its CEO believes strongly in the benefits of crowdsourcing.
Creation does not come from a single person. An idea comes to light when many people join forces. I think the true meaning of creation shines through cooperation.
Crowdsourcing goes beyond gathering new ideas and working together. It is proving to be a long, repeated process of collaboration, discussion, and modification that is rewarded with a unique product at the end. Park Geunhye, Arirang News.
Time now for a look through the international headlines we're following on this Monday morning. For that, we turn to our Eunice Kim, standing by at the news centre. Good morning, Eunice.
And good morning to you, Mark. We'll begin with the conflict in Libya amongst rival militias and government forces, showing no signs of abating and now forcing foreign envoys to leave the country. Weekend battles in the eastern city of Benghazi pitted militias against forces loyal to the Libyan government for control of the major city. Intense shelling continued into Sunday as the Libyan Health Ministry reported 38 people were killed and dozens others hurt. The ministry also said nearly 100 people were killed in 1 week of fighting in the capital city of Tripoli, where a coalition of militias are trying to wrangle control of Libya's main airport from Zintan militias, who have maintained control since the 2011 revolution. Now, the intense fighting has marked some of the worst violence since the toppling of leader Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. On Saturday, the U.S. evacuated its embassy in Tripoli by land to Tunisia as fighting raged at the airport. A joint statement issued by envoys of a string of countries, including the UK, France, Germany, the U.S., and the Arab League, said the situation in Libya is reaching a critical stage and called for a ceasefire from all sides. In an unscripted addition to his weekly address at St. Peter's Square, Pope Francis made an emotional plea for peace on Sunday. Ahead of the centenary of the start of World War I, he said his thoughts were particularly on the crises unfolding in the Middle East, Iraq, and Ukraine. His voice appeared to crack as he made a direct appeal to stop the war, saying, "Brothers and sisters, never war, never war. I am thinking above all of children who are deprived of the hope of a worthwhile life, of a future." The pontiff's remarks came as a humanitarian truce broke down on Sunday in Gaza. Today marks 100 years since the outbreak of the First World War. The Nigerian Islamist militant group Boko Haram has kidnapped the wife of Cameroon's vice prime minister from her home in Kolofata. At least 3 people were also killed in what was described as a savage attack on Sunday, as Vice Prime Minister Amadou Ali, who was celebrating the Muslim feast of Ramadan with his family, was scurried out to a neighboring town. And in a separate strike, the town's mayor, who is also a religious leader, was kidnapped from his home. Boko Haram has been stepping up its cross-border attacks in recent weeks as Cameroon joined international efforts to fight Boko Haram militants. And following meticulous planning and a $1.5 billion salvage operation so far, the Costa Concordia has arrived at its final destination, a port in the Italian city of Genoa, where it will be scrapped. The 4-day-long journey from Giglio, where it had run aground 2.5 years ago, was completed without major incident despite a storm on the way. The massive ship will be searched for the last remaining victim still missing, 33-year-old waiter Russell Rebello, before being demolished and scrapped, a process estimated to take 2 years. 32 people were confirmed killed in the shipwreck. The ship's captain is being tried for alleged manslaughter after abandoning the ship with many passengers and crew still on board.
And a good Monday morning to you all as we kick things off in the VLeague as the 2014 Kobo Cup came to an end with two teams claiming the cup before the start of the new 2014-2015 season. Now, first off, over on the women's side, Hyundai Hillstate taking on GS Caltex. Hyundai Hillstate, led by Hwang Yeon-ju's 29 points, beats GS Caltex 3 sets to 1, 25-20, 22-25, 29-27, 25-23 to claim their first Kobo Cup title in 8 years. Meanwhile, now over on the men's side, the Korean Air Jumbos taking out Uri-Card. A bit of a lopsided win for the Korean Air Jumbos, this time led by Shin Young-soo and his 25 attack points, as Korean Air beats Uri-Card 3 sets to nothing to claim their third Kobo Cup title. And now moving over to Sunday's KBO action, the Kia Tigers crushed the Hanwha Eagles 17-5 with the Lotte Giants beating the LG Twins 4-3 in a close one, and the Nexon Heroes win one over the SK Wyverns 10-6. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the Samsung Lions take on the NC Dinos. And of course, going over to the game here, second inning of the game. We go over where Lee Ji-young with an RBI single to center field scores Lee Sun-yup, and it's 1-0 Samsung. Now stays that way till the fifth inning of the game where Eric Thames comes up with a clutch RBI double to right, and we're tied 1-1. And speaking of clutch, Navarro to the rescue with a 2-run double to left, and the Samsung Lions take the lead 3-1. Meanwhile, Im Chang-yo comes in for the save, and ball game over. Samsung wins this one 3-1. And now more from domestic baseball, this time with the Asian Games, as manager Yoo Jung-il of the Samsung Lions and the technical committee is set to reveal their 24-man roster later today at 2 p.m. And it won't be an easy decision, as the number of players in the league have been enjoying quite a season, including guys like Oh Jae-won, Na Ji-won, and Hwang Jae-gyun. But despite many of the players hoping for a chance to play on the national team for the first time and also a chance at being exempt from military service, manager Yoo Jung-il made it clear that he'll choose the team that will win them a gold medal. And now more baseball, this time over in the majors, as a number of legends in the sport were honored and inducted into baseball's Hall of Fame. And of course, with 6 legends being honored on the day, was highlighted by the induction of Greg Maddux, one of the most brilliant pitchers in the 90s, and his former teammate Tom Glavine, who was a part of that amazing Atlanta Braves pitching rotation in the 90s. Then of course there was Frank the Big Hurt Thomas, who hit over 500 home runs in 21 seasons in the majors, also joining amongst the elite. Now 3 others to join the legendary managers in Bobby Cox, Joe Torre, and Tony La Rosa. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good morning to you. I'm Lee Ji-yeon with your weather updates. Well, it looks like hot and humid day is forecast to kick off the last week of July. Temperatures will be rising to low 30s across the region, and the monsoon front will drop showers to Jeju in the morning hours. So people in Jeju is expected to monsoon rain in the morning hours, but it should let up as the day goes on. But while the rest of the country will not see showers today, but we can expect to have a bright sun shining down on us in the afternoon hours. So the high level of UV index is expected. So don't forget your sun protection items and get ready for another scorching day today. And here are the readings for today. The morning low here in Seoul is starting out at 21, then the high will rise to 32, and Daegu will climb to 33, and Gwangju and Busan will have daily highs of 30 and 29 respectively. Now let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like Jeju Island and Daejeon will top out at 28 and 32. Dokdo should see highs of 26, while Mount Kungang reaches at 21 under lots of sunshine. Well, that's all for Korea, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
OK, well, those are the stories we have for you at this hour. Korea Today is coming up in about half an hour's time. We'll be back throughout the day with more news updates, and I'll be back at 10 a.m. Korea time. Until then, goodbye.